The views expressed by Patrick Kindlon solely belong to the individual and do not necessarily represent those of the How'd We Get Here podcast.
Can I preface this? Everybody that is just coming into this and got the impression that because there was video of me singing that I'm a musician. That was not my music.
Just so, no, that's our intro. That's the song we have for.
No, I know. I just for anybody who might have wandered in here. I was just thinking that's very funny that I'm holding the microphone, but the music is so incongruent. Yeah. So, but thank you again for another round of a lot of design work into my intro. I appreciate you.
Thanks. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So a group of really talented young people made that song for us, and we admit that we can't sing our own theme song, but we're proud to have it though. You know what I mean? Like they put a lot of work into it. So
listen, it's cool as hell that you have a theme song. I was just thinking it'd be very funny if people thought those were my lyrics.
Yeah, well, I threw the little disclaimer in there because I know you sometimes get a reputation for being controversial, so I thought I'd throw that disclaimer at the beginning just as a little joke for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that. As I always say, I think it's a sad commentary if I'm controversial because I'm a very milquetoast guy. So if I'm the bad boy of anything, that doesn't bode well.
No.
Well, you do sing for a hardcore band. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be a little edgy. You know what I mean?
You know what? I wish that was the case, but 2024, it's it's
the scene's raised up. Like,
I mean, but a lot of that's the thing is, right now we're in a. Sorry, everybody, if you came for comics, we're gonna talk hardcore music for a second. It's really nice that there's been a really welcoming spirit post-pandemic, but it's also had the maybe not wholesale positive effect that a lot of outside sensibilities are impacting the inside. So that is to say, you say I sing in a band of that type. It's edgy by nature, maybe less so. than any time in my life, maybe it's it's a I don't know how you'd say it, like a poison chalice or something of that nature, where it's a lovely thing to have more people involved either in a very serious way or even casual in the thing that you do, but it also comes with the maybe a misunderstanding of some of the cultural markers, guideposts, etc. So,
and I did not try to pigeonhole you as a hardcore band. I know Drug Church, just like everything else you do, it's very varied. I mean, you are a guy that's got a lot of interest in a lot of stuff, and I know that your music isn't just genre specific, even though you do are kind of a icon of the scene at this moment. You know what I mean? A bit.
Well, that's another. I was gonna say that's an interesting topic, but your viewers would have to inform me if that's the case. But it's a topic I'm interested in because as hardcore music as a genre is experiencing a lot of growth and also kind of an expansion of the umbrella, like what falls under the term. I'm obviously comfortable with that mostly because I was the person. However many years ago, I was the kid who liked the stuff that was current and got clowned by the guys that only listened to the old stuff. That was me at one time. So I never want to be the person that cuts down the new kid. However, while that's happening, my definition of hardcore is narrowing. So I don't particularly Drug Church gets write-ups often about how we're a hardcore band. And I never fight it, obviously, because that's somebody's ear, and it's fine. But in terms of sound, I think that we would be on the fringe of what I would consider hardcore music through my 2024 kind of calcifying old man ear.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which I think it's interesting. I'll dive into this now, how I kind of got to know your work and how vast it is and different genres and everything is one of the first things I read, and I love your prefaces on all your books, and I think it was there's nothing here, or
there's nothing there, and retailers really hated that one.
Yeah. And that's what I read, and I was like, I love this. And I think you made a vague reference to a band you were in or something. And so then I went and looked into it, and I found like the bands like Self Defense Family, which I think you have a new album coming out soon, is one of the other bands you're a part of.
It's we're recording soon. We in our constant effort to do things the least intuitive way, despite being a band for 20 years, we're releasing demos ahead of our LP. And the reason for that is just because there's a Led Zeppelin song that I think the demo version is better than the album version. And I became fixated with this idea that it would be fun. It would be fun to have some part of your catalog be argued that you did it better on a 4-track than you did it better in the studio. I think that's like a rite of passage that I've never had in guitar music, and I thought it would be fun. So doing demos, releasing very soon, and then a new LP probably either very late this year or early next year.
So the demo, it's like going to be like a little 4-track EP type thing, or
it's going to be available on cassette, and I think we'll probably do 2 of them because it's all writing for an LP. Although, truthfully, a lot of this stuff will probably be thrown before we go in the studio. But it's trash recordings. It's really putting a silk hat on a pig because we went to the trouble of, they're professionally mastered and they sound good, but they're not professional recordings otherwise. But as I said, there's a difference between my band and Led Zeppelin in that Led Zeppelin's demos probably cost $50,000, but and to record, and we did ours for free. But it's still that principle, that idea that it's fun to let the listener be a snob about your work, like to say, oh, I like the demo better. I think that's just like a fun thing. So we're going to be doing that. But sorry to hijack the show, but that there's nothing there. Preface was I lost retailer support over that. I don't even remember what it said. I just remember thinking it was not like when I got the phone call, hey, are you sure you want to include this? And I said, yeah, what do you mean? And he said, Matt Pizzolo at Black Mask said, they're not going to take it in the spirit you want. And I said, what spirits? I said, but he knew the retailers better than I did because they did not care for it at all. Some of them really, I wouldn't say they held a grudge because there's a lot of retailers who have been just fine to me, but they weren't enthusiastic about me for a couple of years.
Yeah. Then from that, I was like, oh, like I was trying to find all the bands you were part of, and then I found out you were the singer for Drug Church, and then I'd already kind of knew because through Spotify algorithms, it like your weekly suggestions based on what you listen to, and Drug Church came up a few times. So then I kind of found your music that way. So through comics, which was cool. I was like, oh, I didn't even know. I was like, this comic writer, I'm reading this book, I love it. Come to find out, he makes some pretty cool music that I enjoy as well. So it's like a bonus, right? So
I don't know if we discussed it last time I was here, but I've cross collateralized my life without cross promoting my life. So
yes,
I'm starting now to try to allow these two things to bleed over. Maybe just because I feel established enough in both that I don't
Mhm.
I don't feel that I'll be discounted as a serious contributor to one by doing the other. But yeah, I was sheepish about telling people in comics that I was in music, and telling people in music that I was in comics, and now I'm sheepish about games.
Okay.
I work in games too, and I haven't gotten a LinkedIn or any of that sort of stuff simply because it is a thing that doesn't get discussed enough. Is comic books on the surface, whether you like the books or you don't like the books being published at the moment, you could just go to a store and be a reader, and that's still a good experience, because if you don't like what's new, you could go to what's old. But if you involve yourself in the blood sport of comics, it is so ugly, so petty, and you really can't let people know your wins. You can't telegraph your successes because or broadcast your successes, because there's people that just want to harm you. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but it barely applies to me. The guys who work at the big two, they have proper lunatics trying to dismantle their lives.
Yeah. What was the one just recently with the burning the pictures? Taylor.
But that's Tom Taylor. But that's
Taylor,
now. Don't get me wrong. I didn't. I'm sure that he doesn't like that experience, and I don't blame him. But that's almost different. Like, I think people are not fully honest about this. I've been involved in music a long time, so people threatening to harm you is somewhat normal. I know that sounds crazy, but it's in the course of your career, if no one's threatened to harm you, then you didn't do it right in guitar music, right? So that is something that I'm very comfortable with, not because I'm a big guy, obviously, and not because I'm tough, just because I know what that is, and I can look it in the eye. But this other thing that exists, which is, and this is why I'm not trying to take anything away from Tom Taylor. Again, I'm sure it was an unpleasant experience, but it's that type of attack gets him sympathy from people. Whereas there's other types of attacks that people launch online that don't get you any sympathy at all, that just sort of like destroy your life. I like once, like comics are crazy. I wish, it's funny. The only people that are fully honest about this are people that have been drummed out and they don't expect to ever come back, because then there's no stakes for them. They can be honest. And don't get me wrong, some of them are lunatics too. But when you're in it, there is a level of decorum, I guess, that you hold on to, even when you want to say the thing. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because people see me as the guy that says the thing, but I really do not. I'm still safe because I need, even if I am not, like, I don't see myself as a corporate creator, and I've taken meetings at those companies, but it's not like an ambition, right? So I don't have that on my shoulders, and that's nice. But the flip side but the extension is that I still have some trickle down of what they eat actually does make me shit. It's if I get a bad reputation with retailers, if editors who go from one place to another have a bad feeling about me, like there's an editor who I want. Every day I wake up and I say, should I bury this editor? I say, I hate this guy. I say, should I just go off? Because I wouldn't be saying anything that literally everybody in comics also feels. But I know that if I do that editor has an interconnected sort of experience in comics, been around a long time, and will harm my livelihood. And my wife will ask me, why are we making less money because you had to be mad? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is actually a good question. But I don't know what arrived. Oh, but yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. Friends in a few industries feel this way, that they're scared to share with the world what they're doing, because all it takes is one really strange person, and it can really dismantle your life in at least small ways, you know? So yeah, but comics invites that, which I think is interesting. Like that's not entertainment does this. I don't know why, but people don't do this to their contractors, you know? Well, maybe they do. Maybe they leave bad Yelp reviews that are malicious. That's entirely possible, I guess. But people broadly, they focus this anger at people that work in the arts and entertainment and things like that. And I got to say, not to complain, because I really enjoy my life. That part sucks. That part is really, really aggressively stupid.
Yeah, we hear you, man. We actually really do try to keep it as positive as possible on this show. We don't try to rip anything if possible. Every now and then you can't help but like be like, oh, fuck that. But like, it's a pretty extreme case usually when we get there. You know what I mean? And it's
well, that's the thing I'm contending with now, because I just started doing a YouTube, and really my goals are pretty modest. I just want like 1,000 subs that are people that are interested in what I do, so I can talk about the things that matter to me. But then every so often I can blast out, hey, this is what I have coming up. And 1,000, I mean, for viewers that don't know,
plug it.
1,000 people. Well, I think it's Another Smash Hit, or maybe just my name. I think it's YouTube at Another Smash Hit, which is a Kirby reference. But if you, it's probably Patrick Kindlon, maybe, whatever. Anyway, I'm not good at promoting anything, but here's the point. The point is, it is desperately difficult to have thoughts and feelings about an industry or a medium, and not have it come off negative. It's very tricky, because the way that we process news is that, you know, the way that news is even shared with us is it's only news because it's negative. You know what I mean? So when something comes in and hits your ear, you know, you're likely to get a little bee in your bonnet, and you get on the YouTube or whatever you do. You type your Twitter fingers, and it's hard. So hats off to you for trying to stay positive. I don't think it's easy, and some people do really put you in a situation like they hand you a big pile of poo, and what are you supposed to do with a big pile of poo? You know?
Yeah. Straight up. Well, I mean, at that point, we kind of just politely decline to have them on if we don't think that it's actually something we feel comfortable promoting. Like, we have actually turned down a couple people, tragically. But yeah, I mean, but that's how it goes. You know what I mean? As I don't want to be fake at the same time. You know what I mean? But there are a lot of. It is tough, man. But Joe actually had me watch your video on Manga. And I found that quite an entertaining take that you had on that. And so, like, yeah, I really welcome people to check it out, because, I mean, we need more actual really good creator operated channels on YouTube where, like, people actually talk about comics themselves and take you into because, like, I don't want to get into specifics, but there's kind of a vacuum that's opened up in that particular market on YouTube and stuff, and like, yeah, it's something that's probably greatly a lot more needed. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to see that you're doing it.
Well, first let me pump Rob Guillory's channel. You know, well-known cartoonist, was an artist on Chew, and is now a writer artist on farmhand, and just a kind of I mean, most of your viewers will be familiar. He's doing really great work on YouTube. It's calm, it's centered, it's kind of the grounded sort of no hot takes here sort of thing that you would want from Rob, who is like a very even keel, considered person, so it's nice to see that voice. I listened to an Ink Pulp podcast, which is maybe Canetti. No, forgive me. It's Scalera, and at any rate, it's talented artists, and it's interesting because it's almost purely an artist perspective. A lot of people interview writers, and a lot of people, a lot of writers take it upon themselves to do things like Substacks and things like that. But you don't hear from artists as often, and I mean, I think even people like myself who owe my career to my artist co-creators and collaborators, you can sometimes forget that artists have as much to say as a writer. They just typically don't volunteer it. You know what I mean? So it's those are two that I would recommend for anybody right now. YouTube had a moment where it was exclusively outsiders who did the YouTube sort of weekly or daily sort of videos, and I mean outsiders in both positive and negative. If it was a few people who felt like they had been chased out of the industry, it was a few people who were just really dedicated fans who were never properly in the industry, and you didn't get a ton of current direct market creators speaking on anything in the direct market. It was almost seen as like a danger to oneself, because there was like such a like a stink that people had placed on kind of being a creator on YouTube. But I think moving forward, I should suggest Michael Sweater's YouTube as well. He falls more into that kind of like he's published through Silver Sprocket, and but I think he's putting his focus on self-publishing, which for people that are interested in that and also interested in comics that see the direct market as completely ancillary money rather than the main business, he would be the guy on YouTube that I would suggest checking out his channel. But I think that the odor is gone. And I think that in the same way Kickstarter started off as a thing that people held their nose about, it's now being seen as a respectable means of bringing your vision to the world. And same thing with YouTube. It's just these things over time, the rush judgments that people have dissipate over time,
Well, yeah, and also a lot of the people that you were talking about, a lot of them have left YouTube because they kind of became like activists of just and they all kind of left YouTube, and a lot of them are on like Kick or Rumble now. So that's another thing that like YouTube's kind of open game, and a lot of fandoms kind of.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's going to be a big challenge if I actually, like I said, my goals with YouTube are very modest. It's just to update the people that may already like what I do. But I think that would be a major hurdle if I was trying to properly grow it, is that I don't have a ton to say about established fandoms. I couldn't jump on somebody else's train. I read Spider-Man for 25 years. But I've been disconnected for a while. You know what I mean? Like I I stopped watching the Marvel movies. I don't know, 5 movies ago. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't. The things that people, Star Wars is completely, they started racing rabbits in the last one and I just walked out. You know what I mean? I'm outside of a lot of the fandom talk, the traditional fandoms, the big ones. I'm outside of them at the moment, and not even on some snob thing. It's just it's competing. It's competing for my eyeballs and ears with a lot of other things, including my own work. And it's just, it would be insincere of me to try to, like, if I sat down and talked about Spider-Man in whatever context, I'd have to say, like, I'd have to be analytical about a comic book. I couldn't talk about Into the Spider-Verse, So I don't think I could properly grow a channel talking about, like,
I feel you. It's a book that you used to care about, but you have an affinity for, but you actually don't really care about now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and look, I was talking to an Italian friend about their comic export to the world, Dylan Dog, right? Dylan Dog.
Oh, and yeah, for real? You know him?
Well, no. That's like, that title is one that Italian, like, it's like a rite of passage, right? Everybody kind of has their experience with that book in the same way that maybe people do with X-Men in the US, right? Like, it's just a thing that it's a thing that's part of the gestalt, and maybe you interface with it directly, or maybe you just know about it. But what I thought was interesting was, now that's an interesting book to me as an American, but Italians are kind of over it. You know what I mean? And that's how I mean, it still has fans, of course, but that's, Spider-Man is an interesting one, honestly, because, I mean, if I wanted to get sort of a college course level about it, I could, or I could get a bit, I could get fanny about. I could become a fan in conversation about Spider-Man, because as a kid, I had a father. I have a good father, but it's not often that, at least for me in my life, that my father did anything but kind of teach by example. I didn't get life lessons in sort of consumable chunks. It's just, but Spider-Man was that for me as a kid. So I can get pretty emotional about Spider-Man, because it's almost like you're in the same way that maybe not the Hungry Caterpillar, because that doesn't have any emotional heft to it, but in the same way that perhaps the Giving Tree, right? And when you read the Giving Tree, you, as a kid, you understand it's about motherhood, and but you don't understand the gravity of it until you're much older, and you have an appreciation for your mother because you've seen bad moms, and you've maybe you become a parent yourself, and you've seen how hard it is, and so it takes on a different meaning, you know what I mean, and it takes on a deeper meaning rather. And Spider-Man, I could say the same thing for. If I go back and I revisit some classic Spider-Man, you can see, and this was not actually, sorry, I interrupt myself a great deal. By the time I started being like a rabid fan of comics, Spider-Man had graduated into this other part of life, where he still had all the nonstop hassles, but they were very different. He was no longer a teen, you know what I mean? He was, and that's why I was never a crazy fan of Ultimate Spider-Man, but the effort I admired the effort to reconnect with the spirit of the character, which is alienated teen. You know what I mean? And if you go back and you read early Spider-Man, you can really get that he's not. I mean, in the Ditko Lee stuff, the Lee Ditko stuff, he is like a, he's got a definite incel vibe to him, but he grows into not being the biggest nerd on the planet. He's just a normal kid, and still, still experiences alienation, fails to connect with other people, falls out with people. It's all the stuff that you would need to know as a person coming of age. And so I can get pretty.
I got to tell you, Patrick, you just made yourself a really good Spider-Man video right there. That's content. And the good thing about YouTube, man, is you don't have to talk about current comics if you don't want to. Joe and I do a segment called Big Tuesday, and it's us talking about like DC and Marvel books, but like we're always talking about stuff that's from like the early 2000s, and we don't really talk about too much stuff from right now. I mean,
is it what do you find people enjoy most? And sorry for anybody who exclusively wants to talk comics. We're kind of going to get into YouTube analytics and SEO at the moment. But what do you find people enjoy? Do you think people enjoy talking a conversation about stuff from the 2000s, or do you think that more people are excited about conversations like they want to hear current reviews even? Which one do you think?
I'm pretty sure that but like especially with somebody like you and you talking about your affinity for classic Spider-Man and the certain storylines that meant shit to you, people will be there for it, dude. You know what I mean?
All right.
I know that that's for certain, and I'm pretty sure like they would be really interested in like you pretending that you care about what's going on in Superman right now. But I think that like, a lot of other people would know that it would be disingenuous content from you. So I think like as long as you kept it real and you talked about the things like Spider-Man, like you just had a very passionate like wig out, and
yeah, I can I can get a little verklempt about certain characters, and then there's other characters that are impossible to get emotional about, but you can get emotional. This is where I think a lot of the negativity in comics comes from. This other thing, the Punisher is not a character that you can have an emotional connection to. You can have it can have a place in your personal history, as it does for me. I love the Punisher, and I love the trashy Mike Baron Punisher, and it means a lot actually. And I think the Ennis stuff means a lot because of its standard of quality is, it might be the highest that the big two's ever had. I know that's a very bold statement, but I think in terms of raw storytelling, it's
especially the Max book. I liked Marvel Knights, but the Max book was just so on point. The especially the Arc Slavers. Oh my God, that was
it's the Max books for sure. And it's just fantastic, gritty genre work with a like a Scottish cynicism to it, and it's fantastic. But those are things that you can feel strongly about, but it's not the same as like as a Spider-Man or as I'm sure Superman is to many people, where it's a character that you want to take those qualities onto yourself, even if you don't realize it as a kid when you're reading these things. But I think a lot of the negativity in comics comes from, and I don't, for the record, I don't begrudge this negativity. I feel it is when you consider the Punisher and you consider you don't have, again, it's not the type of emotional connection that you might have to Spider-Man, but it's a thing that you loved. You really got a lot out of it. It was fun for you. And you wish that you could still have that. And of course it's the passage of time. You can't, but let's say that you're like me and you're emotionally stunted at 19 or whatever. And maybe you could, maybe you really could read a Punisher book today and feel exactly the same way. And then you pick it up, and no disrespect to Jason Aaron, who I think has done fantastic work in his comic book career. But when you pick up the Punisher and you see like, you haven't gotten a good Punisher in a while, and then you pick it up and you see the takes and you go, damn, can this guy please shoot a villain?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whenever like I'll get YouTube algorithmic stuff, which is actually I don't know who's going to find this interesting, but when you are a small creator, for whatever reason, your algorithm starts hitting more small creators. So I get a lot of dudes who have 300 views, and that never happened to me before. I would only get top line stuff like, whatever. And now it's a lot of creators who get smaller views, and you don't want to fall into that trap that some of those fellas do of being angry at every change, because obviously change is inevitable, and you got to be honest that that it's a man can't stand in the same stream twice, because the man has changed and the stream has changed and the man has changed. It's the same thing with media. Like, I couldn't experience Spider-Man the same way that I did at 4.
No.
Like, it's but you also, some part of you resents that you can't, and it is easy to take that out on the creator who is doing Frankencastle or whatever. You know what I mean? It's easy to target that person, and I do get it. Or it's easy to target those companies. I do understand, because people have these connections. Now, if you don't have those connections, these things seem ludicrous, right? So like Star Wars, I couldn't care what happens in Star Wars. I enjoy the first 3 films, and maybe that's it, right? Oh no, I liked Rogue One.
Yeah.
So I don't care. So when I see people care a lot, it reminds me that my own triggers, the things that I might say, Jason Aaron, why is the Punisher carrying a sword? You do know he holds guns, right? It's a very simple idea. Like, just give him some guns, my man. You know what I mean? When you do that, it seems to an outsider as ludicrous as Star Wars passion seems to me, because to me, Star Wars, well, it's provided some really fun stories, and it's also, to my eye, a corporate product, and at least has been for a very long time. So I don't feel any emotion about it. But as fans of comics, particularly superhero comics in the US, you can really catch feelings. You know what I mean? You can really you can get angry about a lot of stuff.
But what's great is, like you were saying, someone will read Punisher, like you said, like the Franken Punisher, and you don't particularly enjoy that. But that person, maybe there was something there that, grabbed them. And then they start hitting the back catalog and start hitting the stuff that you love. And then when they're reading that stuff and you see that they love it, then you're like, yes, you almost like relive that. Yeah, you relive that first time through them. Yeah.
I love Judge Dredd, and I never learned about him until the Sylvester Stallone movie. That is what got me into like reading 2000 AD comics, and I absolutely adore that line. And yeah, it's the worst way to probably get involved with it, but I actually still like that movie because of it, because it introduced me to that world.
An interesting thing is when you say people may have read Frankencastle and then gone back. This is not a knock, because I think that creators have to be smart about their often short tenures at the big 2. I think that Remender, he made it so with Frankencastle, he made it so people would go look into him. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody picks up Frankencastle and goes, I love this, therefore I'm going to read more Punisher. I mean, they may, of course, but I think more likely, I love this. This guy is clearly doing something offbeat, and what is his other work? And to be honest, of all the ways that guys win at the big 2, that might be the smartest. I mean, that was the model, right? The model was to make an impression, but it on a large audience at the big 2, and then go back to creator owned. But the guys like Remender might have done it the smartest, where they didn't write good comics. I mean, he did, but I mean, it was more than that. He wrote comics that were so representative of his sensibilities that you would go to his work, not more Punisher work, not more X-Force work, his work.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he maximized his time at Marvel.
So kind of building a brand, basically his brand.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Yeah.
But I see in the comments, Tank Girl, that's a great example because I don't know if anybody Randall might see that as a fun walk down memory lane, and it holds a place for him, maybe like how Howard the Duck the movie does for me, right? But you can't say they're good, right? But you can certainly get interested, and then go check out the Tank Girl stuff, or so sometimes it's funny. Like every comic book creator, my stuff gets kicked around Hollywood, and we came the closest to something actually getting made recently. And it was, and when I say closest, still a million miles away, but it was a star who is in the second half of his career and still very notable. But his whole thing was, hey, instead of going to a studio and fighting for 10 years to get $30 million, how about I go raise money, get $4 million and just make this thing. And for me, this is no disrespect to that gentleman. I hope we're still in business, but I am not an obstacle to any of these guys making even the worst movie that's ever been made. Because to me, it's exactly as you said, something getting made that is bad has more value to me as a creator than something kicking around Hollywood for 12 years and 30 people tell me it's great, and then it never gets made. And although don't get me wrong, if you're going to continue to hand me option money, then I will accept it. But I think that those bad movies, Howard the Duck, I think it has some merits. The original Judge Dredd movie, I haven't watched in a long time. I loved it as a kid. I was reading the Judge Dredd Eagle Comics reprints in the US when that movie came out, and I was so excited because, firstly, you feel like you're in a special club when you're reading British comics when you're a kid, because I couldn't find anybody else into that. And so when I saw they were making a movie, I was so excited, and I convinced myself I like it. I'd be curious if I would like it at all now, or if I would have like an affection, as we talked about, like for something just because it came in at a time of my life where it was meaningful. Obviously it's a tough character to do because the helmet alone is a real quandary. You know what I mean? Like I saw Pat, I think it was Pat Mills was commenting that he preferred the Stallone Dredd to the Urban Dredd. Because for all that got wrong, he felt that it had more of a commitment to the original design of the
character.
Yeah, it
looked
like Carlos Esquizilla. He had the eagles on his shoulder and everything like that.
Yeah, but he was talking about like the Mega City 1 sort of like in those very early progs. The Mega City 1 is very strange looking, right? It's got like a Dr. Seussian element to some of the buildings that you don't see at all in the Dredd from like whatever it was 6 years ago or
2012, I think. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You don't. Those are like everything looks like a housing project in Eastern Europe in that one, and that's versus the Stallone Dredd, which had in Mill's view, more of a commitment to the spirit of the thing.
Yeah. I haven't watched the Stallone one in forever either, but I do enjoy the Carl Urban one. I thought that was
Love it.
a fun movie.
If
Loved
you
it. Yeah.
like a good scenery chewing, man, like the Stallone one's still really good, man. You got him and Armand Assante just overacting each other, like it's great. And the ABC Warbot, like the Hammerstein that's in there, he still holds up. If I ever am a millionaire, I'm buying that prop, dude. Like that.
That's cool. I hope it's aged better than the Ninja Turtle props. Yeah, those bad movies, those, you know, it's all to me.
But I mean, we saw them as kids, right? And back then,
Sure.
like Howard the Duck, I think I watched it over probably 8 times, maybe once a week almost when it came out on VHS, right? When I was a kid, and I loved it. Like the duck
Joe liked the
costume was
duck boobs,
great.
man. Joe
Yeah,
liked the duck
and
boobs.
yeah, that's true. The
True,
duck porn, the centerfold. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. You know, it's I have a manager that pitches these things to Hollywood, like, you know, whatever properties I have control over. And he took an interview, or he took a meeting the other day where they asked, does the creator have any red lines that we can't cross in terms of adapting this thing? And he had to find a polite way to say he doesn't give a shit, because I don't give a shit. I think I see these two mediums as being completely different, and it's not like a you know, a Dave Sim-esque sort of comic supremacy thing. It's not, you know, it's not banging a drum that I don't mean for the sake of being Mr. Comics. I occasionally write screenplays, and I'm terrible at it, and I'm good at writing comics. And the reason that there's that disparity is because it's not a 1-to-1. These are to me, they're very different crafts for the writer, but they're also, I mean, they're just fundamentally different. So if something that I did came out in a form that I, you know, was adapted in a way that was unrecognizable, it's fine. You know, I mean, it's fine. That's your thing, man. You know what I mean? I would just say to the director, that's yours. It's actually, I'll take the money, of course, but it's not mine. So I just see them as quite divided.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, like, we've gotten to the point where, like, they're pretty decent at, like, doing faithful adaptations and stuff, but at the same time, I kind of like the weird Hollywood adaptations, and I think people do too. I think that the Keanu Reeves Constantine getting a sequel is kind of proof that people do kind of like those big goofy Hollywood adaptations. And yeah, it would be kind of fun to see how Hollywood would take and run like one of your projects and try to big screen it, you know, like Batman 89 it, you know, type of thing, you know.
I mean, from your lips to God's ears, even the worst version of that would still be a nice a nice piece for my resume, I guess, you know. But yeah, they could make everything into a $2 million indie, or they could make everything into you know, $70 million whatever, and I'd be happy. To be frank, you know, my wife was asking me, would you even watch? And I don't know if I would. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not to say I definitely wouldn't, but I don't know. I won't know until I know, you know?
Well, there's nothing there. That's basically an A24 movie. I mean, but you probably have to get Maria to sign off on that with you, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that she probably would, whatever, you know, like we're both pretty loose on that sort of thing, but, yeah, it's funny. I was asked to adapt it as a film, as a screenplay rather, and it didn't go the way that I.
No.
it was as it was described to me. Wow, this is great writing. This is not at all a movie. And I think that's probably true. Firstly, Hollywood wants their horror movies to have proper horror in them. And while There's Nothing There is a very interesting horror-esque book, they did not have any idea what to do with my script because just nobody dies.
It's
You know what I mean?
easy. Like it's a slow burn, like a 1970s movie, like Rosemary's Baby type thing, and then you color it like a giallo, and like an Italian giallo. The comic book, it's very cinematic. You barely have to really adapt anything from it. It should be a pretty easy, in my opinion, to make it. And like if you get like an art kit from like A24 to make it, you know what I mean? You're looking at maybe even getting awards for that. Again,
from your lips to God's ears, but the actual structure of the thing is what they take issue with, right? Because so for something to be horror, they want beats. And what I mean by beats is they want, in this instance, they want person to die here. And then, okay, that raises the stakes. Now we know people are dying. Now we need another death because we don't trust the audience to watch these things if only one person dies. So in that respect, I mean, I agree with you, and I would love to see that, but it's trying to get the money for these things is very difficult unless you got to kill the campers, basically. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason that formula never goes out of fashion. Let's see. Howard the Duck to the comic Howard the Duck. That's Constantine is to Hellraiser. So it's a tough one. This is tough. When something varies so much and it's a property that you care about, I can understand. Like when they even I remember when the Punisher movie came out, and they
which one?
He's talking about the Thomas Jane one where he's in Miami.
Thomas Jane? Okay.
And just because it was in Miami, I refused to watch it. So that should give you an idea of how specific and weird people can be about the things that matter to them.
That was all John Travolta's fault too. He wanted to shoot in Miami, man. He convinced the director that it was cheaper.
I mean, listen, it's funny when you write these things, when you write the comics. Now, obviously Ennis was writing not for it to be adapted for film, but when I do comics, for example, at Black Mask, or I'll run it by Pozzolo, who is kind of the brains there, and he'll say, "Listen, I trust you. Let's do it." But you couldn't place this someplace that somebody would actually want to film. You know what I mean? Because that's a real thing. I didn't find that out until Survival Fetish got kicked around Hollywood, and it had better odds because it takes place in Hawaii where people want to go. So stars will go, yeah, I could spend 6 weeks in Hawaii. That could be worse. You know what I mean? And producers will say, yeah, I could spend. Directors, everybody will say, yeah, you know what? That could be worse. And meanwhile, I'm writing new books that take place in Albania. Nobody wants to go to Albania. You know what I mean? Yeah. No disrespect to the Albanians in my audience, but you know what I mean? It's funny the considerations. Like I think I did a YouTube about it. Maybe I just wrote about it on my Substack. My life is a blur, but I found the comics to film, and maybe we discussed this last time. The race of the protagonist conversation so interesting. I mean, because these are things that if you're just writing comics and your ideas are coming to your head, and I don't second guess them. I'm not a guy who thinks, let me tinker with this to arrive at a more marketable thing, right? So like if I see the character is Indian and the artist agrees, that's an Indian character. It doesn't matter if it's if we're like, oh, hey, that's going to be a bit of a trouble because there's not enough Indian leading men. So, your property may not sell as well to Hollywood. I don't think about it, but I did think, I was forced to think about it after Leaded Gasoline got kicked around Hollywood, and it got a lot of attention from agents who have black clients, because it's fascinating. You can the Hollywood math is that you can change a white protagonist, but you can't change a black protagonist, right? So like Leaded Gasoline has a black protagonist.
Mhm.
If it was adapted to film, it would be considered, it just wouldn't go if we were like, oh, but we're going to make it a white guy. Right. And I found that's stuff that I never think about, but when you get those phone calls, you then go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how much that affects some of my peers, right? Because this seems mostly over. I won't impugn anybody, but there was an era where I think I give Brian Wood all the credit in the world, because Wood did the best possible version of television comics, right? Like he did an absolute, you read DMZ, the comic, the Massive, even the Viking book, you read these books and
Northlanders and Black Road. He had a couple of Viking books.
He had a perfect, it felt so adaptable, right? Like it felt so like it was ready to go. And I thought he did it with an open heart. I think that that's just his sensibility. But then you could kind of see a couple of his peers try the same formula on stuff that felt half-baked, or it didn't feel like their heart was in it. And it was not nearly as cool. And I think there was an era of that. There was an era where people were like, no names, but I don't want to get in trouble. But there's a book that ended because the Hollywood, it was a book that had a lot of hype, a lot of people talking about it, a lot, like, it was a thing. Now, did it sell crazy? Hard to say in retrospect, but it had the cultural zeitgeist. And then it stopped abruptly. And then you hear that it stopped abruptly because the Hollywood deal died. And that creator was no longer incentivized to do their own comic anymore. And you go, oh, right. Okay, so that was the ugliest era in my life in comics. And, people accuse each other of, oh, this is a Netflix pitch, or this is blah, blah, blah. But I think it happens a lot less than, I mean, there was an era, and there's in music, like it's often the case. For example, I'm no fan of Korn, but Korn almost reset the aggressive music landscape in a really serious way. So what we call nu metal was born out of groove metal, and then Korn took it and went big with this idea. And then weirdly, Sepultura, who in my view is 50 times the band that Korn is, Sepultura, who, I mean, they had an evolving style, it went in different directions from
a brutal death, right? Is what I would classify.
So
right?
Started as essentially like a proto death metal band, but then became a thrash metal band. And on Chaos AD is just like almost a template heavy thrash, right? Like doing something to the extreme at that time. But then Roots comes out, and it's essentially a nu metal record. Now, I like that record, and it has fans now, and and it had fans then, but it's post Korn, right? And this happens in music. The Rolling Stones have a disco record. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like this happens. And I feel that some of the name brand creators of that era saw that, oh, these things really are getting TV attention. TV's a regular check. And it also lent, like, the medium of periodical comics. If we were going to make a comparison because of the monthly schedule, we could say that it has the most overlap with some type of, like an episodic release. So television makes sense. And a lot of guys changed their style up and did some work that I do not think is the best in their bibliographies. But I think there's a lot of creators doing kind of corny stuff right now, but I don't see that as much. I don't see for all the stuff that gets accused of being Netflix pitches. I just had a dark thought. Maybe it doesn't seem like it to me because the guys right now are not as good at it. You know what I mean? That's my dark thought. Maybe I was working this in my brain and then I arrived at, oh shit, maybe they really are trying. That sucks. But sorry, fellas. I don't know how we got there. I just I just
name of the show, man.
That's the name of the show. Yeah. How do we get here? But I want to go back because you mentioned your Substack.
Yeah.
Listen, you do 2 podcasts, Worst Possible Timeline with Eric, and you do the Hardcore podcast, Axe to Grind with Tom and
That's right.
Bob. And like you said, you don't cross promote very much. Like, you rarely will bring up comics on either one of those podcasts. Maybe a little more often on Worst Possible. You'll mention a few things here and there, but so I was like, man, fucking Patrick never talks about comics, and he has 2 platforms where he could plug like his stuff regularly. So then I was like, I don't sign up to too many newsletters for, like, because it fucking my inbox just gets flooded with all kinds of stuff. But I was like, fuck it. I signed up to your newsletter. I've been reading it for not very long, like maybe a little less than a year. And I was like, this is where you talk about comics. Because, like I said, I love, like, the Frontiersman at the end. You wrote that little letter. And I love it hearing your takes on comics, the industry, past, present, future, and I love reading that stuff. And you have, like, a little section dedicated to that every week. I think you release it on the Monday or the Sunday. And your
supposedly Sunday, but life gets in my way.
Yeah. So if people are interested, it's called Do Not Siege Walled Cities, and that's your Substack newsletter. And you do one weekly. So if people want, they can go there and check it out. And that's where I saw you actually, when you read stuff you're reading, actually comics or movies or anything you're consuming presently, you talk about it there. And we often do a check-in here when we don't have guests. And I asked you if you want to do a check-in and give an opportunity for you to talk about, maybe, like you said, you don't read Spider-Man anymore. You know, there's things in the past you love, but it'd give you an opportunity to talk about maybe some stuff that you're reading or checking out now that maybe you'd want to give a shout out. So I don't know if you put any thought into it. You said, yeah, sure, I'll do a check-in. Maybe if, I don't know if there's anything you'd want to shout out that you're into these days, or.
So you're going to spare me writing about this because I was going to write about it this week, but I will not. There is a, what's it called? Requiem? Requiem Vampire Night. Yeah. Requiem Vampire Night. So, okay. So I'm a Pat Mills fan in theory. Right. And what I mean by that is he does a lot of work that I think is so on the nose that it's difficult, but sometimes that on the nose British thing that he does is perfectly dialed in.
And that Oliver Ladois art, though, man, come on. Oh my God. I'm familiar with the book you're speaking of. Yes.
So I'm reading it on a pirate site because I can't find it in print. If you try to find it in print, it's like, I don't know, go look it up right now. Like I tried to buy it the other day and it was like over $100.
Trades, man. You're actually cool enough. Oh man.
No. Listen, I don't live any place right now. I can't handle any books, but I wanted to go buy these and I was excited to buy these. I was going to mail them to my folks' house because I don't want to travel with them. And I was disappointed. I can't find them for a reasonable price anywhere. So
for the heavy metal magazines that they ran in, because they all ran in a heavy metal magazine, that might be the best way you could probably find them in physical form.
I've been picking up heavy metal from the shop here in LA, just back issues, old stuff, but it's scattershot. I mean, it's hard to find a continuous run. Otherwise I would consider it. But at any rate, this book it's all of the Mills-isms that work and don't work. And as you said, Johnny, the art is ludicrous. It's gorgeous, right? But I knew that going into it. What I didn't know was, is this going to be the Mills I like, or is this going to be the Mills that is too much? Because he's always, now for people that don't know, Pat Mills is unable to do a thing without commentary. It has to needle. He comes from that generation.
He started war comics. I think that's why.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great thing. He did Charlie's War. He was a war comics guy who is a I think self-identified. Now everybody these titles vary from nation to nation, right? So like the Liberal Party in Australia does not mean like the Americans' conception of liberal, right? So these things vary, but he is his generation's version of a progressive, and is, so progressive socialist sort of guy in the British model of his age, right? So for people that everybody look that up, it's a specific type of dude, I assure you. And that
Well,
all of his
he's a prototype for like Alan Moore and all those guys, man. He set that standard pretty much. He was the first dude like that.
I mean, those 2000 AD guys, I don't want to say they failed, because obviously they've done so much good work, but in some respects they fought a system for so long and now are kind of like the veterans of that particular war, right? and it's and I mean that in every respect. Like they're veterans, like like they've got a limp, like but he can't tell a story without needling the church, without needling imperialism, without needling the police state as he sees it. He literally, it's not in him to tell a story that does not, if the story itself doesn't focus on those matters, he will find a way in dialogue. He has been the same dude for my entire life.
Even in comics where people are fighting dinosaurs, like in Flash,
yes.
He still works it into that.
Yes. So that's what makes him both kind of a genius and also a pill. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if we talked about it last time I was here, but at that time I might have been reading his.
You had a book of his you held up, and we actually did talk about a book that you were reading.
It's a pill, but Third World War. But when he's on. That's funny. My two appearances, I just talked Pat Mills, who is not necessarily an American tip of your brain sort of creator. No. It's funny that, but I'm reading that Requiem book, and even when it's ham-fisted, because it takes place in hell basically, and so you get everybody's role in hell reflects their role in life.
How evil you are, it depends. It dictates what kind of monster you are in hell. And like vampires are like the purest because they actually enjoyed being evil on Earth and shit.
Right. So like the nuns that covered up child abuse, and because he can't write a story without that. I'm not kidding. Like he can't. So it would be fun to sit him down and say, "Hey man, I got a big pot of money for you. All you've got to do is write a script that doesn't contain these basic elements. Can you and he'd break the pencil. You know, he'd, so, but it works in this way. It's pedantic, you know what I mean? It's didactic, it's annoying, but it's beautiful and it works. And so I've been reading that. I picked up Penthouse Comics, and I of course, with anthology books, you don't enjoy everything, but I enjoy what it is. I think that it's
heavy, right.
It's nice that we have it. Honestly, like it's a lot of I guess it's Euro reprints, right? But it's stuff that I just went to Belgium. When I say just, it was months ago. But I was in Belgium, and I wanted to do the whole like, oh, I'm going to check out the shops and everything, and so much good unreadable work, and what I mean by that is everything's
exactly what you mean by that. Yeah.
Everything's gorgeously printed. Everything is of very high quality. And yet story is not necessarily their thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, now it's not to impugn the entire European comic system, which I think obviously produces true classics, but it's any criticisms that we have for the United States in terms of storytelling, I think we can be applied, although in a different way, to.
Yeah. Me and Joe were talking about that with Manga last night, kind of about your video. We were having a discussion about that. And yeah, we were talking about pretty much, I was telling them how Manga kind of has the same problems as US comics, just in its own right. You know what I mean? And then, it's the same way with Europe. So, I mean, like they all got their own levels of trash, you know what I mean? And there's going to be, probably most of it's going to be, what you could classify that, just like American comics, You know
what's interesting though? And this is what I think manga has over American comics at the moment. It's a style of trash that has a other appeal to it, right? Like, and what I mean by that is the otherness of Japanese culture, which I've only been there once, but I don't think I'm saying anything crazy here. There is a level that once you go outside, like certainly the Anglosphere, but definitely once you hit Japan, which I've been all around the world, Japan is the most foreign feeling place I've ever been. Right. So the work that comes out of there, firstly, there's mores and cultural sensibilities that are, they don't get discussed because everybody wants to, firstly, you don't want to seem insensitive. And secondly, you don't want to, fans of manga don't want to admit to something, which is
lolicon and stuff like that.
Well, the stuff that would not ever be accepted by American creators is embraced when it's Japanese creators, right? So material that would not just raise eyebrows, but like it would be a problem for the publisher, for an American publisher.
Yeah. I hear what you mean. Like Neon Genesis Evangelion, trying to get a book where like humanity decides to fight God. You think that that's going to fly? Like if that tried to get released as an American comic?
Well, see, but that's edgy within the window. But then there's the stuff that is edgy outside the window. And I don't even mean like, I know that people's minds are jumping to panties in vending machines and shit. Like, I'm not even talking about that sort of shit. I'm talking about like there are hundreds of series.
I know what you're talking about. Kind of like how the old school comics, like Lady Snowblood, are like where the characters are like very morally ambiguous, like the main
morally ambiguous, sexual, violent in a way that is purely celebratory,
nihilistic. You know what I mean? Just like the main characters are kind of pure evil in some of them. I was telling Joe to check some of those out. I was telling him to read like Crying Freeman and Lady Snowblood. And like those ones.
If you want to read the most, I mean, I'd have to
Devilman's really bad. Ichi the Killer or Kuroshimi Ichi, the actual comic from that. Like if you've seen the movie and think that's bad, don't even try to look at the manga for that.
The fella, and forgive me, I'm terrible with Japanese names. The fella who did Crying Freeman did a book called Wounded Man that, I'm not exaggerating, it would blacklist you in the United States. It like if I submitted it, even as high quality as it is, to a publisher, it would impact my career moving forward for submitting it. You know, but these are things that people love about, like they love the otherness, and firstly, that's okay, right? Like people don't know how to talk about these matters in an adult way, where, you know, by some people believe that if you recognize the otherness, if you recognize the quote unquote foreignness of a thing, that it then perhaps you're in danger of orientalizing it, fetishizing it, but that's internet talk. The truth is that we like things that feel different, right? Like we like things that like are. I mean, when I go to a store that has a good manga selection and a good comic book selection, I spend more time in the manga section now because there is a greater likelihood that I find something genuinely provocative or titillating. And I don't mean necessarily sexual. I mean, it's going to do a thing that I would not get in American comics, and I know that.
And that's reflecting in your work, right? That's kind of why you're doing these sports-centric crime thrillers. I mean, that's a little bit kind of like something you'd only get in a manga, where like it's kind of about like a basketball team, and you know what I mean? Like, and you have a tennis book, Stringer, and you have a book that you showed us that you're working on that's about curling, which looks very interesting. So, and like, and is that kind of reflecting in your work then, your love for manga?
That's interesting. So, yeah, I suppose it does actually, but I didn't want to bring a topic to you fellas. It's your show, but I was inclined to talk to you about the thing that I'm wrestling with, which is I keep calling on my peers to do edgier work, to do work that pushes people a little bit, so that we have something, right? Like, because right now American comics are very difficult to define, right? Like we would just say it's a little bland, you know, it's not, it's
Tim Vigil needs to put out a new book. That's what kind of needs to happen. Or somebody like him has to put something new out that's like that, that's going to piss people off and scare the shit out of them, like Faust did. Like, listen, I know what you're saying, right?
There's maybe we talked about it last time I was here. I don't recall. Have we talked about it's a book title I can't say. Did we talk about the book title I can't say last time I was here?
Oof.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
Well, as a white fella, it's not an option to say. So you're gonna have to look it up. But it's dog N-word, right?
Okay.
So these are kids in their 20s, I think, who are self-publishing. It's a self-publishing enterprise that I buy their books, right? Like I mail order directly from them. And this is where young people's heads are at. This is why I'm sick to death of, you know,
it's the real outlaw comic right now.
That's it. That's it. And this other thing that we have, this, these corporate comics that by nature can't be edgy. So the best that we could hope for is that they're perfectly crafted. And we don't have a ton of craftspeople in comics right now. So you've got this boring thing by nature. It's owned by the Disney Corporation. It can't ever challenge you, right? That's the nature of the thing, and we have to accept that. But it doesn't mean that it has to be low quality. It could be fantastic. People. I did not see that last Guardians of the Galaxy because they told me it had like it would pull my animal rights.
Yeah.
It made me cry, dude. Like
Yeah.
he goes there, man. I got if you're a friend of animals, it's a hard watch a bit, man. Not gonna lie.
So that's great though, right? Because it's all, it doesn't say at the end of it, go vegan, right? It just shows you a thing that is going to upset. It's going to get the reaction that director wants, right? And then, but it will never at the end of it say, go vegan, bitch. You know what I mean? It can't. It can hint at these. It can hint at these ideas, but it can't follow through on them. And but it doesn't mean it's bad. I want everybody watching this to understand that.
That's like the same problem I had with the Purge movies too. It's like you're trying to say something, but you don't go all the way with it, and it kind of pussifies it. You know what I mean, right?
So that's funny you should say that. I borrowed the Purge movies the other day. I was going to watch them.
They're fine. I mean, they're fine.
Well, a friend said that he had to watch every one of them because he was in business with one of the producers or something, and he felt like I should have that conversation. I should whatever. But he watched. He said the first Purge is actually the best one, not the one called the first Purge, not Purge 1, but so. I haven't watched it yet, but I was intending to. But the Purge is a good example. The Purge says something. Yeah, as you said, right? It says something. It talks about basically like a simmer. What inequity does. Inequity simmers, right? Like it causes a resentment, and then also on the other side, it causes a resentment in both directions. Causes a dehumanization of poor people and a resentment of rich people. And what does that mean? As our, who did I hear say this the other day, that it's the most dangerous nations in the world are not poor nations. For example, like Cambodia is not a particularly dangerous nation, but nations like Brazil can be very dangerous because there is such wealth disparity. So it's not poverty necessarily that leads to the type of violent crime. It's wealth disparity. Now, I don't know. I probably heard that from a YouTuber. So take it with a grain of salt. But this is what the Purge is saying, right? But you nailed it. It can only say it within the guide, the bumpers on either side of the lane. You know what I mean? So, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's in the same way that, restrictions can make your story better. It can be a thing of value. And I'm with all that, but I think that there has to be a thing that goes all the way. And what I wanted to posit to you fellas is, what is someone like me who is not that edgy a dude supposed to do, as I call on other people to be edgier, as I think that this market needs, pardon me, everybody, needs more. What it needs is lady death, but with sex. It needs lady death, but with graphic violence, because lady death is a fascinating property, because it doesn't go as hard as any of the covers would suggest. Right?
What you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to self-publish it, and I'm there for it. I think a lot of people would be, dude, especially if you get like some of your really talented buddies to come and do art. Like I am an Evil Ernie Ride or Die fan, dude. So if you were gonna dip your toes into that kind of water, and like but like you need to self-publish it, and and I would say that, like, I mean, you'd have to kind of pariah yourself but like I would say like you do the a little bit of what Vigil did, you know what I mean? The call outs, you know, like that is what really like the Artenfaust scared people, but like what really got him in trouble was him being so right about what was wrong at Marvel at that time. He was the first person to call out that Liefeld, thing, and like most of the stuff that like he's hated for, and still blacklisted for, is shit that he said that is kind of just common, feelings
Yeah,
among the fandom, you know what I mean? And he's still in this kind of black box for it, for the most part.
you can be right too far in advance. You know,
Yeah.
what I mean? You can be correct too early.
So I mean, take shots maybe, but like don't go as far as he did. Or like maybe do that. You know what I mean? If you really want to cause waves, I think somebody like Vigil with the kind of backbone that self-published comics have right now could thrive. Whereas Rebel Studios had a couple good years, but like he scared people. He scared too many people.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Kickstarter earlier, and these type of books like you're talking about tend to get quite a bit of support on Kickstarter.
Especially if you get some variant covers going, man.
Well, son of a bitch.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting is, so that's all true what you're saying, but the Kickstarter creators they're grumbling right now because Kickstarter has a new like comics commissar, and it seems to coincide with this change. And I don't know this person, and I don't know, I'm not putting out that type of book, but they are grumbling that formula is actually being not shadow banned, but it's not getting the priority that it was supposed to, or that it did previously. You know what I mean? So it
would be bad to screw that up because comics is the only thing good that Kickstarter's got going for it. Like none of their other formats that had that much respect. I mean, like their games, like every now and then they kind of like put one out that like is a hit and stuff, but like the comics is the only thing they have going that's like a massive hit for their site. So
like the not safe for work stuff always does gangbusters, but everyone's caught on to it. So everyone's even guys who aren't doing not safe for work stuff now on Kickstarter are creating not safe for work books and put it on Kickstarter because people just back the shit out of a lot of those. And like Johnny says, you get like this hot artist just to do one variant cover with like tits on it, and then like everyone's just getting it for that one cover, right? It's ridiculous.
There was a cheat code there, and let's give the Kickstarter people the benefit of the doubt that maybe they, in an effort to maintain quality, they're trying to stamp down the cheat code. You know what I mean? So that could very well be. But my understanding is that there's some changes going on because I have a book that is, again, I'm not that edgy a guy. It's just it has nudity and violence, but it's almost like a to me, it's like a murder she wrote, not murder she wrote. It's like
in Europe, it would be like a regular comic, but over here, it's like it'll actually.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's to me, it's like an episode of Columbo, but there is nudity in it, and I was like, oh, I have a good relationship with Image. Perhaps they put it out, but I might be best suited to find that reader on Kickstarter. But so I was a little disappointed. That book's probably like, half a year away, but I was a little disappointed when I saw that the Kickstarter crowd is revolting a little bit, saying that, they're being the boob hack is being patched. You know what I mean?
So that's what the grumbling's about. Okay, then.
That's
you don't
not a
need to
bad
rely
thing.
on it though, man. Like I think you got name recognition, at least in my opinion, and everybody I know likes and respects your work. So
yeah, but it's interesting. I'm reaching this point. This is not any sort of call out. I think I'll probably be doing business with them, but a publisher was pitching something I'm involved with to a retailer, and the retailer was mostly ambivalent. And then when the retailer was made aware that I'm in a band, he goes, I didn't know that was the same guy. That's, you know what I mean? Like let's have him in, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's an interesting place that I'm in, because even retailers who obviously the good ones all have their ear to the ground, I'm still mostly you need a hit, or you need an independent hit, which is very hard to manufacture. Really almost has to still be organic, which is kind of a great thing in a lot of ways. Or you have to do something at the big two. And what I mean by something is you have to do something notable enough, right? Because working there is now, it used to be you worked at the big two and then you came back to creator-owned work and you sold big numbers. But now half these guys don't even come back to creator-owned work because they never were in creator-owned work. You know, like
like because
there's a
before
few.
creator-owned work, most of them came out of Vertigo. Like you mentioned Jason Aaron earlier. Like I guess he's kind of has done like a couple Image and Vertigo and Dark Horse books here and there, but like he's mostly worked within the DC and Marvel sphere his entire career.
Let's give Aaron his respect, because
I love his Vertigo work, man. Scalped is one of my favorite comics ever. The other side is just made me cry once again, like that.
So, but what I mean is, let's put respect on his name, and the respect that he's not even the guys I'm talking about, because he has done creator-owned work intermittently. Now, I am a snob. I think that you always have to be doing creator-owned work to be part of the conversation that I want to have. But there are guys at both publishers, both Marvel and DC, that have never published anything outside of those publishers. That is absurd. You know what I mean? Like that is an insane thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There might have been an era where that was acceptable, but I don't even know when that would be, because the guys who went on the pre-Image, the pre-Dark Horse, the pre-Caliber, the pre-Kamiko, the before all of that, there was still dudes doing. They were cutting their teeth doing fanzines. You know, I mean, they were doing. There was still something that they've done in comics prior to going to Marvel or DC. And right now you got guys that they don't, I mean, look, it's rough. I don't want to sound like a snob, and I don't want to sound judgmental, because, you know, a lot of people have families and they take opportunities that are in front of them, and it's one foot in front of the other. And they're not worried about my judgment of what they should be doing with their career. And that's only correct. But to not want to do, I mean, how much are you not interested in your own ideas to only be a corporate animal because I'll tell you, look, I don't think I'm saying any, I don't think I'm saying anything out of pocket here. These guys are not going on to their own ideas after this. They're going into video games where they'll be working on somebody else's ideas. I think most of these guys have given up the dream of working in television, but maybe there's a few, because Fraction got in there, and a couple guys have done it, of course, but like it's that dream is mostly dead, right? That was the delusion that a lot of creators were working under. But
there's so many kids on Kickstarter that think they're going to become filmmakers out of doing comics too.
Really?
So many that think they're going to become filmmakers.
Well, filmmaker's different. Filmmaker's different for this reason. You can make a film. If you can get your uncle who's an orthodontist to give you $25,000 as a loan, you could make an independent feature that, of course, no one on this planet will ever see, but it is a thing that you could do. Making a television show, now there's web shorts, of course, but or web series, but making a TV show is a corporate endeavor. You know what I mean? That is a thing that it doesn't mean it can't be good, of course, just like there's plenty of good Marvel and DC comics, but
actually shows are better now than movies, in my opinion. Like I'm like kind of a TV fiend, which I never really liked TV growing up.
No, I've still, I think I've finished probably 4 series. I'm a very bad TV watcher. I all my criticism of people's attention span is, I mean, I'm guilty because TV by season 3, I'm out of everything. It doesn't matter how much I liked it. I'm out. So, I don't know. I think that dream's mostly over, but the games job is where all of these guys are hoping to land now. And so that means that they could go their entire careers without contributing an original property. Because I don't want to say they have no original ideas, because clearly,
they have something in a folder somewhere that they drew that they're proud of, that they show people, you know what I mean? And like they wanted to do that one day, there has to be something like that. Because I have
it's also, I mean, look, you could do a Spider-Man that, like, maybe the story idea is wholly original. Maybe it is something that is you. It represents your interests and passions and sensibilities, and you could do that. But it's less likely because it's going through a few different filters before it arrives there. And this is if I have any problem with corporate comics, it's not the guidelines, it's not the guideposts, rather. It's that in the same way I don't really care for animation, it's because once something becomes too full of checks and balances, once it becomes too distant from a single hand, like rest in peace to Ed Piskor, but when I would watch cartoonist kayfabe, and I would get so irritated with this man because as a writer, listening to him talk about how unimportant writers are is just irritating, right? Like, so you'd be listening to this and going, my man, this is why your books read the way that they do. Is because you think you don't, nobody needs a writer. So I had my criticisms of him while he was with us, but he had a point one time, which was, and it's a very snobby point, but it's understandable, is that every hand that is added to the process takes away from it for him as the end consumer, right? So his point was basically, I want a writer artist or an artist writer for he had a cartoonist ideal that you do everything, because then it is you are the auteur in earnest, and this is your vision with zero compromises. And I agree on a certain level. Mm-hmm. I think that, but as a writer, obviously, unless I want to start writing books tomorrow, I think partnership and collaboration is what I do. It's not like I'm saying it's essential to what I do. It doesn't even do it justice. It's what I do. So but I agree with the essence of his criticism, which is that the more hands in a thing, and this is why I cite animation, because I have friends that, they're artists that work in comics that occasionally get animation jobs. They are one of a rotating team of 60. You know what I mean? It is, they will do just the barn. You know what I mean? They draw just the barn. And this is not to shit on them, obviously, because we're all pursuing means to feed our family. It's just that is, and it's not artless, of course. It's literally art, but it's just there's something by committee to it. There's collaboration to me, and then there's committee, and I do not care for committee.
So by that time, your vision is beyond compromised. It's something else. You know what I mean?
Right. But listen, there's people that are at peace with that in the same way that I'm at peace with my work being adapted into something unrecognizable to me. But I think at some point you must thirst for something that is you. It is, or it is your partnership, right? Like, so I can't say that any of my books are me. They are myself and my artist partner.
And you pick good ones, man. Like you told me I could, but like, yeah, this is like something that I love this. And this page right here blew me away. I was just like, damn, I want to read the rest of that so much. Like, even without the dialogue, I loved like that.
The little obstacle course that leads to different things too. Like, I love
the nesting ball images.
I love how he gets creative with his page layouts and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Listen, everybody, we're looking at pages from Paul Tucker. That Paul is just a clever guy, and he's so in his personal affect, he is very understated and not trying to dominate any type of conversation. He's a proper artist. So when I say he's just monumentally clever, I mean it I don't mean it in the way that I might say it about some of my writer peers who are interested in projecting clever. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not Paul. Paul is just genuinely clever, and it manifests in his all of his pages, really.
Yeah, and you guys, like, with the kind of crime drama that you told with Stringer, I mean, like, it just matched the tone. Like, it had that great noirish look to it, and yeah, the fact that you got like 2 projects coming out with him in the near future, right?
Yeah. So he has finished all of the art. So for people at home who don't know how this works, publishers vary in how much material you need to have ready before you go to print and before you go to solicits. Image, I believe, is 3 right now. So that's a kind of a wild number. I don't, look, I don't know if I'm telling tales out of school. I don't know if it always hits 3. I think probably it could be a little looser than that. But how many issues in the can do you have? Because you don't want to fall behind and get jammed up, make retailers mad at you, et cetera, et cetera. I've had this problem on books. It's very frustrating, but so they're right to have 3, but that's an awful lot of work to do, typically with no payment ahead of a project. Sorry, this is really nuts and bolts, but let's say you do 3 issues of a book to have it ready for issue 1 solicits. You will, if you're not getting paid up front, if it is a back-end deal, creator-owned back-end deal of any type, then what you're looking for is, or what you're looking at is however long those 3 books took you to do, to draw as an artist, which could be anywhere from, in a perfect world, 3 months, in reality, 6 months, whatever it is. So you're working on those without payment. Again, and this varies, like, artists and I work out all sorts of things, like, and there are a great many writers that, myself included, that will pay artists ahead because we know how wild it is to ask somebody to do that much work without payment, but it's not every arrangement. And so you're looking at that length of time, unpaid, 3 months from solicit, right? And then another 3 months. I don't know how many months. You could conceivably be looking at 10 months before you're paid on a thing, a year before you're paid on a thing. And that's not the fault of any of the publishers. It's that's how that's how it's structured, because the way that the books are being rolled out. So it's a lot to take on. But I say all this to say that Paul has 4 issues of that particular series done, and we've begun another series because we just like to work, you know what I mean? And we have a good working relationship and speak a similar language in comics. So yeah, he's killing it right now. He's got 2 things. I've got 2 books with Paul, either pretty much done or cooking. So pretty exciting. And then just to update people on what else I've got going on. I have a book that I'll just call maybe how stupid are these things that we've got to use to sell these stupid elevator pitches? Maybe it's Heart of Darkness for Dracula. You know what I mean? Like I've got a book with an absolutely ludicrously talented artist named Ludo, who it's kind of like a fantasy book of a sort, and I'm terribly excited about that one. It's very European in appearance, and it, you know, there's reason to be scared of that. Retailers typically are not in love with that. If you come to them with something that is highly European, they balk. But I'm hoping that they see the value in this book, because yes, it's got a European flavor to it, but I think that it can it has other appeal. And then I should mention that Gehenna, which was published in Image 30th anniversary anthology, it was published in 12 parts, is being colored and collected for a single issue. 4 single issues, and then off to trade. But I wanted to use any monies coming in from single issues to finance a color, so that we could, by the time it goes to trade, it could be a really, just like a really impressive piece of work. So
is that another thing that like the printers kind of look down on, and like, do they kind of not want you to do black and white books? Like, so is that a look down upon thing?
So color always sells better. And whenever people say, "What about The Walking Dead?" What about The Walking Dead? It's an absurd statement. It's
and they're printing it in color now. They got that deluxe version that they're running, you know. So
well, it's also to say that the Walking Dead is the exception that proves the rule. It's in 50 different regards. You know what I mean? Like The Walking Dead is a singular property. There's nothing else like it in comics, and you can't base it represents no market trend at all. It bucked every single one of them. So with that in mind, yeah, it's a natural fact in American comics that color sells better than black and white. Now, does that mean it's always worth it? No, it does not. If you have a book that's going to have very limited niche appeal, financially, it might make no sense for you to have it colored. It might just not, like dollars and cents wise, it just may not make sense. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Man, I don't know why people don't appreciate a good black and white comic.
Yeah, I love a good black and white comic.
Look, I was
even a mediocre black and white comic. Sometimes coloring just sucks. Sometimes, like, even a crappy looking book looks great if it's in black and white.
Because I was chatting with someone on Twitter, and I guess there's a new Jason Aaron's writing a new TM in the new Ninja Turtles coming out.
Yeah,
and Joel Jones has the art on it, and they had some sample pages. And there's these sequences, these panels where they're in the sewer, and there's lighting coming in from like sewer manholes and stuff like that, and just the black and white with the lighting on it is just breathtaking. And I'm like, if you add colors to this, it's going to take away so much from the art. And I was like, I don't know why. And it would be kind of cool to see like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in black and white, because that's how it started, right? And it'd be a nice callback to, but like you said, maybe people won't pick it up because it's black and white. But I saw those pages and holy
I mean,
fuck,
even
they were
Saki
nice.
doing Usagi Yojimbo in color now, which is so jarring to me as like a lifelong fan. I'm like looking at my favorite comic book, it's like foreign to me now because he's.
Yeah,
I knew his suit was blue, but like, I mean, was never blue. It was white.
I mean, Usagi's a fascinating example because that's a book that sold enough to stay in print for most of its run, but was never a massive seller, and is one of those books. It's like Stray Bullets.
Yeah.
These are books that everybody on earth respects. In the craft of comics, there's stuff that's undeniable, and both of those books are undeniable. And
Saki actually worked at Marvel. I think he was a letterer, and one time Stanley actually saw Usagi and offered that like if he changed some stuff up, they might actually be able to print it. And he kind of turned him down. You know what I mean? He's like, no, thanks. I kind of like what I got going at Fantagraphics. Like.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he was right to do that, but it's that life is also, people don't. I think it's interesting when you're a kid. You can't even if you come from a poor family, you can't really comprehend the stress of not having a solid income or being a low wage worker for long hours. You really, it doesn't occur to you until you want adult things. You want a family, home ownership, etc. And then this, of course, this is a justification for so much bad stuff in the world, right? It's that motion picture, Thank You for Smoking, right? He constantly refers to the fact that I know what they're going to do because they have mortgages. You know what I mean? And there's some truth to that, right? Like you can get people to do bad things because they've got bills to pay, but people online, you can't listen to people online, obviously, but they are very comfortable with you being poor, and it fits into their narrative about who you should be as an artist, right? As a creative person.
Oh, and you probably get that doubly as a punk rocker and as a comic book guy.
Yeah. And I try very hard. Like I say no to things that would make me money. And I say no to them because I'm difficult, but it doesn't mean that people that aren't difficult are bad. Right. Like I saw people online celebrating that Steve Albini at retirement age had to, he drove a car that he had to open the hood every time and jiggle some stuff. And it was like a Corolla. And it's like, listen, I do not suggest that this man had to drive around a G-Wagon. However, you're never going to get me to treat it as a positive that somebody doesn't have the means, right? And he might have had the means and preferred to put into something else, but that's not what the people that were celebrating this were celebrating. They were celebrating the idea that he did things with integrity. So isn't it great? And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't think he had children, but let me tell you, it's not great. So I think that Stan Sakai, the fact that, of course, he had different deals, right? Like Ninja Turtles.
He was Fantagraphics, Mirage, and Dark Horse for the longest time. Then he went to IDW. Now he's back at Dark Horse.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, people will never really understand. And I don't know his finances. Obviously, he had catalog, of course, but he probably is somewhat fixed income sort of fella in old age. And for people not to understand what type of sacrifice that is, and and to not look at it as a noble thing, you know, like people need to contextualize that being poor as an artist is an unfortunate side effect of this thing that I am passionate about. It would be like, you know, developing some type of illness from engaging in some type of activity that I like, right? Like it's a unfortunate byproduct. It's not the goal unto itself. You know what I mean? It is not to be poor. And I don't know what got me in that zone, but it's just to say that yeah, coloring things is not cost effective. I went a long way to go. that if you're, I don't understand how those Yosagi books. That's a crazy one to me because, you know, I'd have to. I don't want to get into anybody's pocketbook and do the math, but nobody. The math does not bear out that the number of people who would check out a book with, you know, how many issues of Yosagi has there been? You know,
because he ran at Dark Horse, there was almost 300, and then at Fantagraphics it was almost 50. He did like almost 20 issues at Mirage, and then he ran for like 2 years at IDW. So we're talking 400 something issues. Plus he did Space Usagi. He's done like all these kind of Usagi Ninja Turtle tie-ins that he's drawn and shit. Like he did a 47 Ronin graphic novel in between all of it. Like he's a worker, you know what I mean? He did 8 issues a year. That was his deal at Dark Horse. I remember that. Like that was his contract with them. So, and like I guess he turned it in because like he for a while had one of the longest running American comics, you know what I mean? Until like he went back to IDW. But I still think of it as one run, you know what I mean? Even though he does kind of,
I mean, it's a major work. I think you're right to see it as one run. But my point is that it is again, the person that would pick up issue 400 of Usagi Yojimbo, color is not going to be an incentivizing factor. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. And look, I hope I'm wrong. You know what I mean? I hope for Stan's benefit that it's, I
think it's good he colored it. I think the Gen Alpha kids will pick it up because they think it's kawaii and everything, and then they'll see how like kind of brutal it is because like Usagi will like massacre fools and stuff. And I think the coloring might actually help it get it in the hands of the younger generations and probably keep Stan doing it as long as he wants. I think it actually kind of does incentivize the younger readers because the great thing about picking up Usagi Yojimbo issue 401 is Stan does a great way of making the book constantly about Usagi going to a new place, and like there are recurring characters like Gin and stuff that show up, but like 9 times out of 10 you're just going to get a new story about Usagi going to this town that's fucked up in one way or another and having to resolve their problems kind of for him, and that's kind of the way that he keeps it going like that.
That's true. The Bruce Banner wandering through the American Southwest sort of it's that thing in the extreme, and so he's managed to do very self-contained arcs within this larger story. I agree with everything he said. I just don't know, the math is not easy. I mean, for Gehenna, we chose to work with like we got quotes from really top tier color artists, right? Colorists. And it's not a cheap endeavor. You know what I mean? It used to be that color was expensive because it cost more to print. That's not really that. It almost doesn't matter anymore, right? The cost difference is nominal. But colorists on the indie level have gone up in price, and it can be cost.
Legit colorist, man. Like honestly, color is a big part. Like there are so many books that I think look bad just because of the coloring, man. Like the art would be cleaner in black and white.
I don't want to get myself in trouble with colorists.
Yeah.
I don't mind getting myself in trouble with Marvel, but I will say Marvel has some truly hideous books because of the color. And I mean, on covers,
They kind of always have. Me and Joe, we both got the X Factor omnibuses, and we were looking at some of that old art, and we were looking at old Jay Lee stuff, and it was great art, but the color is just haggard on it. It's horrible. And this was like the glory days. So this was back in, when they were churning out the good stuff.
Well, it's the paper too, right? Because back then it was on newsprint, and now they're printing it on glossy paper. So
yes,
the coloring techniques don't translate well to glossy, right? As they did on newsprint. So that's an issue right there.
So that's Marvel being cost saving in a really, really stupid way, because yes, it is the paper matters a great deal. We went from newsprint to sort of, I don't know what grain or grit it was, but then it was Baxter as an in between, and then there was Baxter paper, and then now we have gloss and matte and all these. But I mean, the difference between gloss and matte is nutty in its effect on color. So
matte every time, people, please.
Of course,
yeah.
You know what's depressing? It's more expensive.
It's more expensive, eh? That's why they don't.
Really?
Yeah, more expensive to have less bullshit. It is. It's more expensive, and it's unfortunate because it's obviously superior.
It's beautiful.
So, but this is all to say that the Marvel and DC to a degree as well, they throw color theory out the window on covers. Like it's like colorists who are good colorists must be being instructed, hey, make the cover look unintelligible. Make it so nobody can tell which figure is in the foreground and which figure is in the background. Give everything the same weight. Color everything realistically, which is, I mean, think about what a goddamn joke telling a artist, hey, who's a color artist who is trying to color comic book art, even house style comic book art, telling them, hey, make it realistic. What an absolutely absurd and fruitless sort of task that is. It's I hate the colors at the big two right now. And again, I don't want to beef with any colorists, because the fact is, I don't think that
what the ball pin tells them, right? You know what
that's
I mean?
it. I don't think that they forgot how to do their jobs. I just think that it's obviously there's this other thing happening.
Editorial.
Can you drop the name of your colorist for Gehenna?
I haven't sent the check yet, so I don't want to.
Oh,
but
okay.
Just in case, because I don't want to embarrass myself if at the last minute they say, go to hell. I will say though that it's one of the biggest if everything goes the way it's supposed to, and I think deservedly so. Do you know what I mean? It's somebody there's people in comics who have names, and they get by on their name. This person I think is worth it. You know what I mean? I think that they are doing something in color that is rare in comics. Yeah. So,
because that's a fun book, right? Like I loved it. It's such hot, like the pacing is relentless. The action is great. Like if people haven't picked up, if they didn't pick up the 30th anniversary anthology series that Image put out, the fact that you're putting this out, people should jump on it, because it's a great book. If you like an action comic, that book will not disappoint anyone that loves a good action comic.
So thank you. I loved writing that one. I would write in 8-page progs all the time if I could. I was so grateful for Eric at Image to ask if we were interested, because I had recently reread V for Vendetta, and I was so taken by how well it reads as a finished work, despite being published in I think 8-page prods basically, right? And it's doing that as a writer is just such a fun challenge. Now, obviously, Moore is a genius, and I'm just a guy who likes when women in boots shoot people. You know what I mean? So there's a difference there, but it and he was trying to say something in his book, whereas really the point of all my books, I only say one thing. You know what I mean? Which if there's any thrust to my work, I've come to realize it's just that differences can be fundamental, right? Like there was a book of mine that I thought went under the radar. Very talented artist who's gone on to a lot of great things, but Shoplifters Will Be Liquidated at Aftershock. I loved that. Could be my thesis statement. It's a didactic book, which I try not to do, but it was as on the nose as I'll ever be. And it was just this idea that, hey, I haven't been brainwashed or compromised. I just disagree with you so much, I'm willing to do the crazy thing. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like, if I had to, pretentious at a relatively young career to be talking about themes of my career. But like, if I had to sum up my themes, it's just that some differences are really core differences. Right. And, but that, so I'm never saying anything like Moore. Moore is usually operating on multiple levels, but Gehenna is just, if you enjoy, I'm a huge fan of the girls with guns film genre, right? Like I think that there's something fundamental about it that just works. It's and look, if anybody in the list or in the viewership wants to, psychoanalyze me or extrapolate what that could possibly represent, that's fine. Go ahead. But I'm just going to say,
it won't change the fact that you enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm watching the I started it last night. I hadn't seen it in years. Haywire. Are you familiar with this book or with this movie?
That's with Anderson.
Yeah, that's the one.
Pamela Anderson. No, that's the one with what's her name who got canceled. Yes, I know which one you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's Soderbergh directing Gina Carano.
Gina Carano, that's it.
And Gina Carano, at least at that stage in her, I never saw The Mandalorian, but at least at that stage in her career, she could not act worth a damn. But she is she's good in the physical stuff for sure. And it's filmed in a. It's great in the action is great in the respect that it goes for quick movements, quick, complete movements with a fixed camera. So instead of like the I forget who they call that director, but he did maybe the Bournes or whatever. But instead of doing that,
Paul Greengrass with the shaky cam.
Yeah. And instead of doing that cut on the contact, tight to out, instead of all that, it'll just be cameras placed, not quite Hong Kong action movie because it's much shorter sequences because these are not, Gina Carano was a mixed martial artist or whatever. But she's not like a properly trained, like whatever. So it's not going for those like 30 piece parts like a Jackie Chan movie, but it does do like a very effective, like two attacks per camera, you know what I mean? Or per shot. It works. But long story short, what I'm trying to get at is I love the girls with guns genre of even Atomic Blonde, which no disrespect to a fellow comic creator, but I did not care for the movie very much at all. The
graphic novel's dope though. I like Johnston.
Yeah, for sure.
Too, man.
For sure. But what I'm saying is even the ones I don't like, I like. You know what I mean? There's a movie, Columbiana, that sucks.
Oh, Zoe Saldana,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It objectively is bad to me, and I still found myself like, I watched.
You talked about the Angelina Jolie one. Is it not Salt? But
Salt.
the other one. What's Wanted?
Salt. Oh,
No,
Wanted. Yeah, Salt is
Wanted.
another one she did too.
Salt is the other one. Salt, Salt is on my to watch list, but I don't enjoy Jolie really at all. I've determined
One that I really like is called Everly with Salma Hayek. That one. That movie's
interesting.
Awesome.
Kate is good from Netflix. We like
Kate,
that one. Yeah, that one was good.
There's one, Anna, I think it's called.
Yes.
Oh, the Luc Besson one. It's basically he just remade La Femme Nikita again.
No. Pardon me. That's not the one then. Hannah.
It's with the young girl. The young blonde
Hannah.
girl?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
Hannah, I thought was excellent. Anna, I'm told, is bad. I haven't seen it yet though. But
La Femme Nikita. It's basically he just remade it.
I mean,
again.
look, Luc Besson. I mean, it's funny in 2024 you kind of can't talk about him without he's on.
I like Valerian. I like most of his movies that people call trash. I kind of enjoy Besson, but like he's kind of hard to defend at the same time because like he just doesn't seem to learn. But like he does kind of pump out a good one. I thought Lucy was really fun every now and then. You know?
See, that's interesting because Lucy is one of the ones that people are like, "Oh man, you're in for it." I haven't seen it yet though. It's on my list.
It's only an hour long and it gets right to it. I thought it was a fun little blast. I was pissed that it wasn't longer because I paid to see the damn thing in the theater.
Okay. But La Femme Nikita, I think is excellent. I actually watched that this week for the first time in years. I'm gonna watch Point of No Return, which I haven't seen in years. I don't know. I like that genre. It's funny now that we're talking about this. I was asked to do a podcast where I rank three things, or I talk about three things that I like. I think are the best of anything.
Let's go for it.
Well, I've been struggling because I've been thinking supermarkets, I've been thinking like what would be what would be interesting, and I don't know. That's a tough one because I don't know what would be interesting, but I could probably talk Girls with Guns because I've been watching a ton of them lately. Fellas, I don't mean to cut us too short today, but I realize
over 2 hours. So if you need to go, that's fine. But
no, it's actually just Mother's Day in Australia where my wife is.
Okay.
So I have to check in, make sure she's having the type of day
for sure. Well, let's wrap this up then, man. This was really awesome, man. It was great to have you back. And man, we covered a lot of fun stuff. This was a great conversation. So I really hope to get you back in the future. And I really hope that like you do make some fun comic book content on YouTube because like I said, you kind of made a really cool little Spider-Man video. Maybe you script that out a little bit, pound it out, man. And you know what I mean? There's a guy I watch. His name's Matt with 4 T's. He's got these beautiful comic book video essays, man. Like
he gets proper views. I've seen that. Yeah, there's a couple guys that get proper views. It's very impressive.
Yeah, he's my favorite comic book YouTuber, probably Matt with 4 T's.
I mean, it's fascinating. Like I'm sitting there going, yeah, he gets real views. No coincidence that he also does the highest quality videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I should say, have you guys had Sean Lewis on as a guest yet?
No, but like
we've been talking about it. Yeah,
we're pretty big fans of his, especially like his weird stuff, like Land Killers and stuff. I kind of like his odd books, like Coyotes and stuff. So I'd love to have him on to talk about stuff like that.
I think he would be an excellent guest because much in the same way that, and I apologize to you fellas for when I just go off on a long one, but much in the way that I'm thinking about, as a guy who occasionally does interviews on podcasts and stuff like that, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of a guy that you never have to lead. You know what I mean? Like you can just get him started and he's like a proper conversationalist. So just a suggestion. He also does great work. Obviously tomorrow I'm going to go down to the comic book store here and pick up his new book, who is The artist, I should give his propers, but Bachetta, whatever. But yeah, he'd be a good guest. Not that I'm trying to take the role of producer. I'm just it's a suggestion.
Hey, we appreciate any names you send our way. Feel free, man. If you know anyone, and feel free. We love having people on and chatting about comics.
To Randall Haney, I have never heard For the Empire, but I'm going to now check it out. But anyway, I appreciate both you fellas, and thank you for having me at a time where I've got nothing to really sell. I will.
Well, you don't get to talk comics much, I don't think, really, except by yourself. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun to talk comics with people. You know, even strangers like me and Joe don't really know each other too well. But man, we got the love of comics, man, and we don't get to talk about it with enough people. So,
but actually, don't you have Leaded Gasoline out on shelves now? Didn't it get delayed, and now it's actually coming out?
No, so it is, but it is, but we're doing it a funny way. We've decided. We're going to experiment with the what Sean Gordon Murphy is doing is actually kind of, I convinced Black Mask that it would be an interesting thing to run, is to do the collected crowdfunded book first, then go single issue. You know, might have made a couple of retailers angry, and I apologize, but I think that I want to experiment with that because it's a tough thing. I want to direct horror people back into comic stores, and I don't really know how to do that. Obviously, I'm not the horror guy, so I can't put it on my shoulders. But like, horror is spun out of the comic stores. Now, don't get me wrong. There's great horror books that hit the shelves every month, and not to be that guy, but I've a couple publishers I've spoken to, they're all pursuing horror, like full on now. They really want to make it their thing for kind of the next push that they do. And I hope that all works, but I think that we need to get not the horror comic guy. We need to get the Fangoria reader back to comic book stores. And
the gore hound. Like not just the guy that watches horror movies. You want the guy that likes movies like Evil Ed and like
I want the guy who wants like something that like the video nasties guy. You know what I mean? The guy that would go to the video store and like seek that thing out with the cover's got a hook. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I know it might be trash, but I'm gonna give it a shot. But anyway. But yeah, so nothing on shelves at the moment, though. I would direct everybody to my most recent work if you can. That's Stringer and Antioch.
Honestly,
check it.
Like if you haven't read Stringer, get on that. Like it is so much fun, dude. Like if you like crime drama at all, like it's a blast. And you did something I always like, because you made a very fun but hateable main character, and I love when somebody's able to pull that off really well.
I'm trying to do it pretty much 4 separate times in the crime book that we're doing, so I'm glad you feel that way. But thank you to anybody that watched, and I appreciate you both for having me.
Yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday, everybody, but until then, check you later. All right, take it easy, have a nice weekend.